This is ABC 57 News at 8 on the CW25.
Flame-broiled burgers are the norm at a Mishawaka all-night diner, but new this morning, some extra flames brought in fire crews. The incident could reroute you as you head out.
And more than 1,000 people involved in a neighborhood watch group can rest easy. Their neighbors, some they've never even met, are an extra set of eyes to keep crimes down.
Good morning, Michiana. It's Monday, December 7th. I'm Emily Evans.
And I'm Rachel Brown. We've been following some big stories overnight, which we'll get to in just a second. But first, we want to get you out the door with your forecast.
Meteorologist Greg Bobus has our other big story this morning, of course, the fog. Hey, Greg.
Good morning. Yeah, the fog is the most dominant thing in the forecast by far. I mean, we've got temperatures upper 20s to low 30s. It's not too terribly cold. No wind this morning, so no wind chill. But it's 29 right now in South Bend. That's actually not our coldest temperature. 3 hours ago, it was 4 degrees colder. We've seen some clouds build since then, and those have helped us a little bit. It's like putting the blanket back on after you get cold at night. 29 degrees, not just in South Bend, but also in Goshen. 32 degrees in Elkhart, 35 in Benton Harbor. Going into the afternoon, temperatures slowly make their way back to the 40s. Right now, though, clouds are overspreading the area. We'll get some sun, but we're going to have a lot more cloud cover than sun. And as far as temperatures are concerned, yeah, we're going to go to the 40s here a little bit later. We'll talk about a high temperature in the mid-40s for the most part. The fog is the big thing. We're going to really talk about that in a few minutes. Just know that if you head out the door in the next few hours, you want to leave a little early, drive more carefully, and just exercise caution this morning because it is pretty dense in some spots. We look ahead to a weekend warm-up coming up in 10 minutes.
All right, thank you, Greg. We'll see you soon. Now let's get a look at the roads out there.
For that, let's get right over to 95.3 MNC's Mark Miguel. Hey, Mark.
Good morning, Emily and Rachel. A traffic note this morning at the corner of Douglas and Grape in Mishawaka. There's a fire at the Steak and Shake. Now, the girls will have more details on the fire coming up. As far as traffic goes, power is out in parts of that area, and there are still a lot of crews on the scene, so please be aware of that. Again, Douglas and Grape this morning. There was a fire at the Steak and Shake. More details on the fire itself coming up. As far as traffic goes, look out for some power outages and lots of crews on the scene. The other big story this morning as far as traffic goes is the fog. The dense fog advisory, as Greg mentioned, in effect until 11 o'clock this morning. Visibility in some areas down to a few hundred feet. So be aware of that, especially on the bypass and the toll road. Make sure you leave yourself plenty of extra room between you and the cars around you. Give yourself some extra time this morning, and please use your low beams, not your high beams. The high beams will not only blind the driver coming at you, but also reflect off behind you. So please be aware of that, as again, we have some dense fog in the area. We are crash-free at this hour. The bypass and toll road, although moving slowly, are fine this morning. Please be careful with the fog out there. From the MNC Traffic Center, I'm Mark McGill, ABC 57 News.
All right, thanks, Mark. Again, we want to update you on that fire at the Steak and Shake in Mishawaka. It happened at the location on Grape and Douglas. Our reporter on the scene says the fire is now contained but still active. We're told it started in the kitchen around 5:30 this morning. No injuries are reported, but the building sustained a decent amount of damage. The restaurant will not open today. It's up to the health department to determine when it can reopen.
A crash overnight sent a young man to the hospital. Berrien County police say they think he might have fallen asleep at the wheel around 2 a.m. That's just before his car crashed near an S-curve on M140. The car rolled over several times, but the man only had minor injuries to his head and ribs. Police say he's very lucky.
A crowd of people gathered last night with candles, telling some of their favorite stories about the teenager who was killed last week in a bad car crash. 17-year-old Jack Lane died when his car crashed into a tree late Thursday night. The Penn student was on his way home from working a late shift at Chick-fil-A. Last night, his co-workers held a vigil with his family and friends in front of the Mishawaka restaurant to remember his life.
To most of us, we did it out of our hearts. We all felt the impact from Jack and his life, and when everything happened, he was a part of our family.
The team at the Chick-fil-A location will be wearing buttons with Jack's picture in remembrance.
Shots were fired during a packed party at a South Bend hall this weekend.
2 people were hit by the gunfire and sent to the hospital. It happened early Sunday morning at the Red Barn in South Bend. Police say it started with an argument. They say a suspect then pulled out a loaded weapon and fired. A woman was shot in the hand. A man was shot in the stomach. Both were hospitalized. Regular partygoers at the barn say it's not a known hotspot for crime. This one incident doesn't worry them.
Different events, and it's always been a great place to, to have, and very peaceful place.
Police have not released the name of the suspect yet or his relation to the 2 people shot.
A Mishawaka business is going to need some repair after a car crashed into the building. It happened last night at the Direct Line Communications building. A viewer snapped this photo showing the accident. When we got there, police said nobody was injured. The business owners were there too, boarding it up they were boarding up the hole caused by the car. Police haven't said what caused the car to crash into the building. Clay firefighters have now changed out 3 bulbs in their Keep the Wreath Red bulb campaign. It comes after a cooking fire yesterday morning. Fire crews say they quickly helped an apartment tenant at Castle Point put out a fire that started on the stovetop. It's the second kitchen fire in just a few weeks. Officials say a homeowner's oven caught fire on Thanksgiving when turkey grease boiled over inside. Fire officials say fires like these can be prevented and the bulbs can stay red when people make sure they're paying attention while they cook.
An Osceola neighborhood is working together to fight crimes.
Friday morning, a neighbor noticed a car she didn't recognize outside of her house, so she called police. ABC 57's Emily Kinzer is live at the County Police Department where she's working to learn more about this incident. Emily, good morning.
Well, good morning to you, Emily. An Osceola resident told me